What is a fucked up memory you have from your childhood that you didn't realize was fucked up until you grew older? My uncle tried to take me to a hotel alone so I could see what a waterbed was like in person. I was 14 and he had just got out of prison, although I did not know at the time what he was in prison for. I said no because I thought my parents wouldn't approve. I found out years later he was in prison for raping little girls. Edit. A lot of you are asking why he was allowed to be around family members, specifically me or other cousins my age. It's hard to explain to someone not in a dysfunctional family. Denial is very powerful and all of the adults, especially my grandparents, wanted to believe he was wrongfully charged. I was lucky, others were not. He traded a drug addict's car for her infant baby girl. He had her for 6 months before we could intervene and get the girl to safety. He was not sentenced in that case due to errors in the case and it getting thrown out of court. We found last year he was using social media to lure in teen girls to meetings. We turned him into the FBI, but they haven't been able to get enough evidence for an arrest. Open bracket. Found a condom on the school ground. Not in a packet. I thought it was a balloon. Brought it home, blew it up, and played with it. Until my mom came home, and with a look of horror, asked where I got it. When I told her, she screamed at me to throw it away. I was so mad at her, because she wouldn't tell me the reason. Nope, still can't laugh about it. I was so poor as a kid we celebrated all birthdays on the same one day per year, and it was the best present ever, Pop Ice popsicles. I fucking loved birthday. Yes, I thought birthday was a family thing, not every individual person. Edit. Second edit. Just wanted to clarify that I don't think my parents are fucked up for doing this. I applaud them for this. I look back at the situation to say it's fucked up that some people actually live this way. I don't know the choices they made to be financially tight, but I know they did what they could with what they had, and we were, and still are, happy. Edit. Thank you mysterious gold giver. It will be paid forward. Me and 3 of my cousins, ages 5 to 10, ate some bad bake sale cookies my grandmother had in her freezer. We all ended up feeling weird and my grandmother let us all sleep over. I found out a few months ago they were wheat cookies. She'd made them for my grandfather, but us sneaky little brats found them and ate one each. She called our parents and I guess they all decided the best thing to do to punish my grandmother for letting this happen was to make her watch 4 stoned kids all night. So I'm adopted. I'm black. My parents are white. One day, when I was like 8 or 9, I was watching some old animated Lord of the Rings movie. The orcs were singing a song that went, "Wherever there's a whip, there's a way." Well, later that day, while doing chores, I was singing that part over and over. My mom, horrified, came and asked where I heard it and told me to never sing it again. Couldn't understand why until I was older and realized how bad it would probably look. I remember my 16-year-old sister crying as she banged on the back door, begging me to let her inside, but I was 5 years old and afraid that if I did, mom would be mad at me instead. Other times my mom would lock my dad out for things like coming home too late or looking at the neighbor lady too suggestively. Another time my sister stepped in between me and my mom, taking the belt lashing that was meant for me while screaming, "She's just a kid." I thought this kind of drama and unending guilt over being too afraid to help was normal until I grew up. I'm still working on it, but I haven't seen my mom in person for 7 months now. I just don't have it in me right now to deal with her crap. My English teacher standing behind me, grabbing my shoulders and rubbing his erection on my back. This is the first time I put that memory into words. Edit. Thanks everyone for the messages and replies. I didn't expect this to blow up. Fortunately, this was something that at the moment was only confusing, and I didn't understand it. I appreciate the replies, even the harsh ones. These things need to be talked about. I always had a memory of 2 people fighting, and me watching it from my dad's car. Always thought it was a dream, until my grandma told me the story of it. When I was 2,5, my mother kidnapped me, and my dad chased her with his car. Some neighbors blocked my mother's way and my dad basically threw me in the backseat of his car. He wanted to drive away, but my cookie mother put her hands on the front of the car and refused to move. My dad just simply got out, kicked my mother's legs so hard she collapsed. Then he drove away and took me to my grandparents' house. Never saw my mother after that, and I'm thankful. Edit. To give you guys a little bit of a backstory, my mother wanted custody over me, and since she was losing, she thought this would work. This wasn't the only fucked up thing she did. She locked me up in a house full of cats, which resulted in me getting horribly sick, body full of scratches, now allergic to cats. She poured shampoo in my eyes if I cried. She beat me and her other kid. She locked my dad in her house, called the cops, and said that my dad abused her. She was an abusive, lying scumbag, so of course my dad was on his last straw with her. My dad tried to take care of her other child too, but she disappeared with the kid. So yeah, please don't make any assumptions about my dad. He gave me the official documents a few months ago. It's a 15-page long shit show. I've also met a lot of social workers and witnesses who helped my family. My dad is a superhero for me. Single dads are awesome. Oh, and even though my dad doesn't know a lot about the internet, I'm gonna tell him that over 2K people find him badass. Will boost his ego. Edit 2. He is very surprised and feels slightly embarrassed because he isn't proud of hurting a woman. But he's thankful to all of you, and he hopes that none of you will judge him. He also wishes the best of luck to single moms and dads. Close bracket. Some kid, about 6 or 7 I was hanging around with in a playground with ran off and chased another kid, 4 or 5 Then he tackled him, pulled down the younger kid's underwear, and smelled the kid's ass. In broad daylight. In the playground. I remember he said ass smell, with a stupid grin on his face. 7-year-old me had no reaction. I know I never played with that kid again. My father was an alcoholic. But I did not know this, so I could not figure out why he was nice sometimes and cruel at others. I did not know why he would laugh at something I did one day and beat me for it the next, or why he would hurt me by demonstrating army holds on me and not stop when I cried because he thought we were having fun. So many things like that happened before I finally realized he was drunk. Once when I was alone in my house, someone started banging on our door. My mom always told me not to open the door, but that guy just wouldn't go away. He kept calling my uncle's name, who at that time had been living with us, so I decided to open the door. My stupid mind figured that if I didn't, he would have broken them down. The guy was drunk, and once he got inside, he didn't want to leave. Not thinking too much of it, I actually asked him to tell me a story. He fell asleep in an armchair in the middle of it. My mom kicked him out when she came home. I was lucky this guy was harmless or too drunk. Edit. Since you're wondering, the guy started telling the story of Little Red Riding Hood. I remember being disappointed, cause I already knew it. He knew my uncle, but they weren't friends, both in their early 20s, so I don't really know what he wanted. A place to sleep perhaps. Here's my own story. When I was in preschool, this girl in my class would always bring up disturbing events happening at home. I remember one time specifically, when we ate lunch one day, she casually, completely out of the blue, said, "Oh, by the way, yesterday my dad slammed my mom into a wall and then beat her up on the floor." Throughout the whole year she told similar stories, and I always forgot about it when we moved on to something else. It wasn't until a few years ago that it all came back to me, and I was shocked that a poor 6-year-old girl had to see this with her own eyes. My friend taught me about sex when we were about 6 or 7. She told me what adults do and showed me an erotic drawing from her parents' bedroom. Dad and stepmom, who she lived with, were definitely alcoholics and probably did drugs too, and her older teenaged step brother was super skeevy. It was only after I got to high school that I realized that some of the things she used to say to me about sex were super fed up. She shouldn't have known as much as she did at the age we were, and I highly suspect now that she was being sexually abused by someone. Edit. I just wanted to say that just because kids know about sex at a young age does not mean that they are all being molested. It is extremely normal / common to be curious about our bodies and play act things we see adults do or in movies. Even learning the word sex can come from anywhere, and when you're a kid, you want to share what you learn with your friends. That's normal. In my case, it was specifically the way in which she knew or talked about sex that later made me believe she was being abused. for things that were very specific. Her response to the question, "How do you know this?" was, "I'm allowed to do it." It was weird. And there were other things about playing with her that crossed the boundaries of being normal curiosity. I was just starting my freshman year of high school, so I was 14. I can't remember why, I think marching band, but I was at the high school around dusk one night. I realized that my parents forgot about me and everyone else had left and locked up the school. This was 15 years ago, so I didn't have a cell phone. My school was only a few miles from home in a nice suburban town, so I decided to walk home. Partway home, a guy in a pickup truck pulls along the road and yells out the window asking for directions to the mall. I didn't think anything of it and told him. He then asked me if I could get in and navigate him there, since he still wasn't sure. I was tired and wanted to berate my parents, so I said no and kept walking. It was only a few years ago that I realized he very likely didn't want navigational assistance. And to be clear, I wasn't 14 looking 18. At 29 I get mistaken for 22, and at 25 I was mistaken for 16. Between my face and the way I dressed, I probably looked 11 or so. I was super lucky that he didn't follow me, since soon after where he pulled over the shops and house grew really sparse, and it was getting dark. Thankfully my friend's mom saw me walking and picked me up a few minutes later too. Still creeps me out to think that if I had been less mad or tired I may have gone with. I was very naive. When I was about 5 years old my mom used to shove me in closets and hold the door closed. No matter how much I screamed, cried, and banged on the door she didn't open it. I don't remember how long she kept it closed, but every second felt like an hour. She thought that would help me with my fear of the dark. I'm 23 and I still can't sleep with the lights off. When I last talked to her about it and told her about how wrong it was, she giggled and said oops. The neighbor's dog attacked my dog. I must have been 10 when this happened. I'm home alone, 90s latchkey kid, and I hear my dog yelping outside. I go to see what's wrong, and I home the neighbor's dog on top of mine. I freak out and call animal control. Neighbor's dog had gotten into our yard before, so we knew the number. Animal control stops by and starts asking questions. The lady point blank asks me how exactly the other dog was hurting my dog. Being 10 and not knowing any better I leaned over my dog from behind and told her like this, but Cooper, the other dog, was growing. The animal control lady nodded, wrote some stuff down and drove away. Looking back, those dogs were clearly ducking, but I was 10 and Andy, my dog, was 14 at the time, and I was so scared that she was hurt. Me and my family went to a retreat that was supposed to be of Jesus or whatever. You know, the type where they sing and have you clap and stuff. And at the very end, Jesus himself comes out in a golden chalice thing and he heals people. Well, during that ceremony, a mentally disabled woman started screaming loudly. I think she may have been scared as everyone was crying and screaming as well. But the priest went up to her and started screaming, "Go away, devil. Leave this woman alone. Leave." What do you know, the disabled woman didn't stop. So they had her removed from the room. Needless to say, that was fucked up. Being beaten to the point of being covered in bruises. My mom would buy Macupe to cover it up, and I learned how to mix my own from the cream Macupe pallets you get for Halloween costumes, because it would stay longer. Didn't think much of it until we had to cover up scars and other marks for theater in high school and people asked, "Wow, how are you so good at this?" My mom caught my dad cheating with a woman from an online gaming forum sometime in the very early 2000s. They were sending each other vulgar messages. She read the messages out loud when she found them. I was about 6 at the time. I didn't realize what any of those words mean until about 10 years later when it just clicked. You. The part my 6-year-old brain was most upset about was that his forum profile pic was from a family photo on the beach, but he cropped all of us out. Why didn't daddy want me in the picture? Open bracket. When I was very little, under 5 years, I had severe ear problems and spent a lot of time at ear/nose/throat specialists' offices and had a couple of ear surgeries. As I got older, my ears got better, but I couldn't do things like go underwater for too long, etc. Once when I was older, 13 or 14, I got a severe ear infection to where I could not move my head from a tilted position because I could feel fluids start to reach the infection and cause even more severe pain. I told my parents about it, and my father became inexplicably angry. He insisted that I straighten my head and just suck it up and go to school. I remember him just yelling, cussing, and accusing me of faking illness. I pleaded to my mom that I could not move my head and that it hurt really bad. Finally my father yelled, "Fine. But you're coming with me, and I'm going to take you to the doctor." He said it like it was a threat. My parents were self-employed. So we got in the car, and he drives me to a house, and has me wait in the car while he goes, and gives an estimate for service to a potential client. Then he goes to another home, to check in his employees. I asked when we would be going to see the doctor and he just said later. We went about his usual business day, buying his workers lunch, seeing clients, etc. and just went straight home afterwards. He must have said 5 words to me during that whole day. And I probably really needed a doctor, or at the very least, antibiotics. To this day I cannot rationalize the events of that day. My parents were never abusive, negligent, mean, although they were tough disciplinarians, or anything like that to us kids. As a dad now, I cannot fathom ever treating my children this way. I wonder what was really going on, that I was not aware of. I know when I was younger my parents had health insurance through their employer, hence the early hospital visits. Perhaps when they became self-employed they had no insurance. Still I would never jeopardize my children's health like this on the chance they may be faking it.